Hey folks, and welcome to TK Powersports. Yes, we are back. We took a little hiatus over the winter time. Quite frankly, here in Ontario, I was hoping to make some snowmobiling videos, and that never happened because we never had enough snow, but that's okay. Spring is upon us, which means we're back into four wheels, and today we're taking a closer look at this. This is the 2024 Can-Am Commander Max XTP. And in this video, we're gonna crawl all over it. I'll show you all the features that you get and all the accessories added on this model. And then of course we have to talk about the price, so make sure you stay tuned. Let's start this one off with the numbers. First of all, size. This unit is 160.4 inches long. It is 64 inches wide and 76.7 inches tall. Wheelbase here is 120.6 inches, and overall ground clearance comes in at 13.5 inches. For fuel capacity, you're able to carry 10 gallons of fuel, and estimated dry weight on this machine as it sits is 2,000 pounds. Let's start looking at the features, but first, what is this machine all about? Well, it is the Max, which means it's a four-seater, so you can haul four people in there in pretty good comfort. And then the Commander, this is what you call a wreck ute side-by-side. The whole idea here is that you can have fun on the weekend, out on the trail, but you still have a dump bed in the back, which is a nice feature. Competitors for this would be the Yamaha R-Max and the Polaris General. Now, this model specifically is the XTP, and when you add that P on there, that means that this thing is focused on rock crawling, and there's a number of features that suggest that. First of all, big 30-inch XPS tires down there, and they're wrapped around 15-inch aluminum beadlock wheels. That is a proper beadlock, so yes, if you want to run at very low PSI, you can do that. That is important out there in the rocks. Another feature that's very important for rock crawling, an actual locking front differential. A lot of these machines use Can-Am's Visco Lock front diff, which is not selectable, whereas this has the Smart Lock front differential, which you can actually select from inside the cab. So a proper locker up in the front is a big deal. And a 4,500 pound winch. That also comes on the XT model, but it's always nice to have a winch for those situations where, yeah, things get a little too hairy. Now, suspension is upgraded here too. You're getting 14 inches of travel in the front and in the rear, and this thing is running a set of Fox QS3 2.5-inch shock bodies, and QS3 stands for Quick Switch 3, so you actually have three positions that you can set up to adjust the damping to your liking. And then also this big XT front bumper up here, so if you're crashing through the bush like we always do, you're actually a little bit protected on your front end. Now, we'll roll down the side, and I'll get back to some of these accessories in a minute because you can't help but notice we have a full cab here, we have the roof up top, and we have this adventure rack on our bed, which is a very interesting feature. But I came to the back because I want to talk about the engine, which is right down in there at the rear end. This thing is a 967cc V-twin that is making 100 horsepower, a pretty great number for this machine. Now, talking about towing and payload, towing capacity off of your 2-inch hitch receiver is 2,000 pounds. And I can actually take a look at the sticker here in the back because it lists specific payload numbers. You can see it here, 1,280 pounds of payload for this 4-seat model. And then what I really like is they list all of these different tire pressures for all of the different machines, so you know exactly what Can-Am says you should be running in your tires. Plus the payload's on there for the 2-seat model too, so I always like stickers like this that offer more information to a prospective buyer. Now we can take a look just at the cargo bed itself. So talking dimensions, this thing is 29.5 inches long, 45.2 inches wide, and 10.6 inches tall. And this is a pretty serious bed. I can just reach into the back of it just to give you an idea for how big it is. I love, again, in this segment, the bed is really the defining characteristic of this machine, so you better give me a big bed. The other thing I'll point out, you are getting hard D-rings down in each corner, all 4 corners for tying down. And then Can-Am also does this. They give you these slots, so if you wanted to put some lumber in here, some wood, you could create your own bed dividers. And up in the top, they have spots for link accessories. And you can see we do have this accessory adventure rack on here, so you could add even more things. But nice thing with the adventure rack, there's all kinds of different spots up here to tie stuff onto it, so you could bring tools, camping equipment, whatever. And then, once again, this is an accessory, but today, you can fully zip this thing up, and everything in your bed is totally protected. Now, I see this, again, as kind of the overlanding camping crowd would really like something like this, because none of your gear in the back is gonna get muddy. If you're out there in muddy situations, these tires throw mud and water all over the place, and so that's gonna keep it clean. And then, of course, just out of the elements. If it's raining, well, that's also gonna make sure none of your stuff gets wet. So I really do like the functionality of this back here, but there is one problem, which I discovered, which is that there is actually a hard connection point between the rack and the front cab, which means this bed can no longer dump. You lose the dumping functionality with this adventure rack, and I don't love that. Now, I assume Can-Am did that because when you put a bunch of weight up tall, they didn't want all that weight sort of sitting on the standard pin or clasp system that they have for releasing the bed. But still, you buy this machine for the dumping capability, and I don't think I would get this rack just because of that. You have to be able to dump the bed. So it's one thing to notice, with all this stuff, you can't dump it. But if you are camping and you want dry gear, this is certainly a solid option for you. Let me hop into the back seat now to show you the space. And I will say it's a pretty small opening here, especially with this big door clasp. That's the other reason why this is hinged at the back, sort of suicide door style. It gives you a larger opening, and Can-Am had to maximize the space here. So getting in's a little tricky, but not too bad. And then once I'm in, though, I actually fit pretty good in here. Once again, I stand at 6'2", just over 300 pounds. The audio system would give me a little less headroom, but even with my helmet on, I'm gonna have no problem. And then again, the key with any back seat is good places to hold on. And my feet have 2 spots on both sides where I can really push against them and brace myself. And then, of course, you're getting this big bar right in front of you. If you're by yourself, you can spread out. If you got 2 passengers, you can hold on really tight here. So yeah, definitely no problem fitting full-size adults in this back seat, which is important. And then I'll just speak to the cab one more time. We do have these soft windows, so if you leave your cab on, this would roll up. I can even open up my window, which is, yeah, it's pretty nice to have the full cab. It's cold today. It's about -4 here today, so we've been rolling around with the cab all closed up, and it has been doing a nice job. And then once it warms up in the summertime, if you live in a place like we do, you can open that back up. Oh, my zipper's getting a little stuck here. There we go. So yeah, I definitely like the cab functionality back here, but keep in mind, these are an accessory. They don't come standard. And now let's look at the front seat. So this seat does adjust quite a bit, actually. Now for me, of course, I go all the way back with it. And once again, I fit pretty well in here. No issues height-wise. My knees aren't too tall. And then the steering wheel does adjust. You'll notice the cluster goes with it. I always appreciate that. So I'd run with it right about there. Space-wise, no problem at all. With someone else over here, especially another big guy, we'd probably be bumping elbows a little bit. But for the most part, I can say that I fit good and space won't be a problem. Now let's talk about the storage up front, because that's always an important aspect of these machines. So, big, massive upper glove box there. That is nice. Whoa, seriously deep in there, which is a nice spot to put your stuff. Up here in front of the driver, I got a little baby one. Not as deep, but again, having storage, they have these rubber pins, so they really do lock in place when you put them down. And then another thing you'll notice, Can-Am puts cup holders down here. Cup holders are nothing new, but what Can-Am does is they put little rubber bushings in the cup holders to actually hold your drink. This has been a funny thing on off-road. cup holders have been around for a long time, but they were always just plastic molded cup holders, and you get any speed off-road and your drink goes flying. So I like that Can-Am actually put those rubber bolsters in there to try to actually hold on to your drinks. So I'll start her up now. And you can see one of our accessories working up front. Yes, we have a glass windshield with a windshield wiper. The wiper has a sprayer as well to keep it clean. I mean, what can you say? For somebody who runs this thing year-round, that's extremely handy to have, not worried about the rain. Even in the mud, right? I've been in situations where you splash muddy water up on the windshield. It's nice to be able to turn that wiper on and clean off your front windshield. So I do appreciate that. Now, we're going to get to the prices of all of this in a little bit because it's pretty expensive. But for now, let me just keep showing off the features. I like the wiper, and to go along with it, we have a full heater down here. So you can crank it up. You get these two vents up here in the dash. And we ran the machine earlier just around the property. I'd say within 5 minutes, maybe even less than that, we had decent heat already coming into this cab. Now, it's not an insulated cab, so you do have to keep it running, but with just me and a passenger up here, it warmed up, legitimately warmed up in here pretty quickly, so I was pretty impressed with the heater, and I already said it, I'll say it again, it's cold today, so I do love having it in a place like Canada where, yeah, we deal with cold winters. Now, I can show you some of the other features down here in the center. We have our little pad here to control my screen, so trip, my 3 different drive modes, sport, eco, and normal. And then, of course, these are fairly standard, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and like I mentioned, you get a front diff lock. The one that's not so standard is here. You have trail and trail active. What happens in trail active is that front differential will look for every opportunity to lock up. So you come around a corner, you're in a straight, you punch the throttle, it'll lock up, give you that really great traction, and then the second you go around that corner, it'll unlock to allow you to maneuver. So it's basically an active locking differential, which is pretty neat. And then rear diff lock should need no explanation. That's so you're able to lock the rear diff. Although I should say, I like when brands give you the option. Some brands, I'm looking at you, Yamaha, don't let you unlock your rear end. And for someone who drives around property that they don't want to tear up, yeah, it's a little bit annoying having that rear end always being locked. So I'll shut it down now, and so you can hear our next accessory because it's right above me. This is the JL Audio roof system. I have 6 speakers in here. I can hook it up to Bluetooth, but easily the craziest feature is this. I undo these 2 little clasps up above my head, and this goes up. So, of course, you're not going to ride like this. This is for when you're pulled over on the side of the trail or hanging with your friends in the dunes at Glamis. You're able to put your speakers up, crank your tunes. And I was laughing earlier because these days all side-by-sides seem to have speakers. So now it's just a competition of can you drown out your neighbors? And with this, you're really putting the sound out there into the wide world. And I can tell you it goes extremely loud and it still sounds pretty clear. Now, me personally, I don't think I would spend the money on getting an audio system in my side-by-side, but as audio systems go, this one sounds good, and it's got that party trick to be able to spread your tunes around. So, yeah, pretty neat. And listen, Can-Am isn't doing this because they like it. They're doing it because customers are requesting it. More people than ever are asking for better sound systems and sound systems that don't just keep the sound inside the cab. So that's a fun feature. And if you're willing to pay for it, it's going to pump your tunes and keep you happy. Now let's take a look underneath this guy right here. And first of all, I just want you to see a full shot of it. This thing is totally sealed up the way a side-by-side should be. I really appreciate all these skid plates. Now I got my handy-dandy magnet to see what they are. So right up front, that is a steel skid plate. Right underneath the front diff, that is steel as well. And then we get to this guy. This is plastic. It's actually polyethylene It's more high density plastic, if you want to put it that way. And the nice thing here is that steel has a tendency to gouge and sometimes even catch, whereas this stuff is actually slippery. So the steel's up front to take those hard hits. And then if you can get this up onto a rock or a stump or whatever, it's gonna actually skid right off and slide right off. So this to me is the perfect example of a mixed materials case that is smart. Use steel up front for those hard hits, and then use the fancy plastic on the belly to help you slide over things. Now, as we get to the actual rear, this piece here is still the polyethylene, and then at the very tail end, that is also steel. Once again, you're coming down off of obstacles. You have a tendency to get hard hits on that departure angle, so they put the steel there as well. So I love all of the skid plates here. And the one other thing I wanted to point out, because it's easy to see, arched A-arms. I was just about to pull off the ramp and something jumped out at me that I have to complain about, and it's not Can-Am specific, because a lot of brands are doing this, but Can-Am's doing it too. There's no parking brake here in the Commander. There's just park in the transmission. Now, I just stopped on a steep hill on a ramp, and look, I literally cannot shift it into reverse because there's so much pressure on that parking pin. Now, I'm sure I got my foot on the brake. If I give it a little bit of one of those, I can make it happen. But I don't know, guys. I don't like only having park in the transmission. I like a real parking brake. I think in a perfect world, these brands would put both into these machines. Give me park for when I'm on flat ground, and give me a parking brake for when I'm in more of those, sketchy off-road situations and I'm up on a hill like this and stopped. So it's maybe a little thing. Of course, it did still shift, so that's important. But yeah, I miss real parking brakes and side-by-sides, and I don't know why we're moving away from them. I don't like it. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this one, but I do have to spit out the pricing. So the Can-Am Commander Max XTP, which is the most expensive Commander in the lineup in the United States, you're talking about a base price of $28,599. Here in Canada, you're talking about a base price of $35,599. But then, of course, you have all of these accessories, the windshield, the wiper, the audio, all kinds of stuff added to this unit. So in America, we're talking about an overall price of about $40,000. And then here in Canada, this thing is upwards of 50 grand with all of those accessories. So I do like the way the accessories make it look, and it truly makes it at least a 3-season machine, maybe not out there in the dead of winter, but you're definitely gonna pay for it if you want one that looks just like this. So like I said, guys, that is it for this video. There's always so many features on these side-by-sides. I like to do walkarounds just to dive into every little thing on this unit. But of course, the next video, we're gonna get out there, hit the trail, find the mud, find the rocks, and make sure we test this thing properly. And this is where I like to put it out to you viewers. Please drop into the comments and let me know what you wanna see out of future side-by-side tests. Should we do more towing? Should I haul 4 adults in there? I wanna hear your thoughts, because we like to use your ideas to help make our videos better, and that is what we're here for. So please drop in the comments, let me know what you wanna see. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of TK Powersports, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're testing next. See ya.